is a cub? How does this even work? Can I date Bianca Stigmata in real life? As many of you know, in the mid to late game of Punishing Gray Raven, we get introduced to CUBs, also referred to as the pet system in Punishing Gray Raven. These pets range from having minor assistance value to absolutely kit-enabling abilities for Omniframes. And now there's been some slight changes to the CUB system in the latest patch across the Ruined Sea, so I thought I would give you a brief overview of the CUB system in Punishing Gray Raven, point out a few of the changes, and just give you a quick overview of the system as a whole. Something I just want to cover right out the gate is that while CUBs are introduced mid to late game, I would still argue overall they're more of like a late to late game system, because while pets can really enable you to push some really high scores on some of the more competitive game modes like Babel, Punishing Pain Cage, or Warzone, by no means is it a requirement for clearing general content in the game, or just, clearing some of that content at all. Pets are essential for the top tier sweaty, try hard gameplay. It's not essential just for clearing. And I know that because my CUBs suck and I can still clear all of the content in the game. Like clearing. Not necessarily being amazing at it, but I can clear it. In this video, we're not going to cover every single pet in the game as of right now, because I don't think you guys want this video to be 40 minutes. I don't want this video to be 40 minutes. So we're just going to give you a couple examples. And like I said, just an overview of the system as a whole. So without further ado, let's dive in and take a look at the pet system in Punishing Gray Raven. But before we do, make sure to drop a like and subscribe, guys. I would greatly appreciate that. On to the pets. So what is the role of a pet? Generally speaking, a pet is going to increase the stats of the Omniframe that it's currently equipped to, often going to be attack, but it also comes with an active skill that you're going to be able to use within combat of the game when you have that character on the field. Each Omniframe does come with 2 active skills you can choose between and 5 passive skills. To equip a pet, you will come to the character menu, select the plus button, have the pet highlighted that you want to use, and select carry, and that will swap them over. As I mentioned, with the active skill, there's 2 to choose from, and you can see you select the first active skill and you can change between the 2 different attacks. Each pet, as I mentioned as well, also comes with 5 different passive abilities that you can then select between. CUBs come like Omniframes as an A rank or an S rank. Again, just to reiterate, you can only ever select 1 active skill to choose between, and to unlock the other passive skill slots, you have to rank up the unit. So as you can see, as a base A rank, I've only got 1 passive skill slot. Veteran players are going to be looking at this account right now and saying, what the heck is going on here? I will admit this is a system that I have been sleeping on and I should have been putting more time into, but hey, hindsight's 2020, we're going to keep going.
How dare you?
Now, I find looking at pets within the game itself actually kind of to be really difficult, especially if you don't have the pets already. So another site I like to use in this case is actually grayravens.com. Not a sponsor, but I love the service. So on grayravens.com, you can come in and take a look at the CUBs currently available. You can see their names and get brief descriptions, but you can also open up a particular pet to see their active skills as well as take a look at each of their passive skills as well. So for example, this is Nanami's signature pet, Jet Jaeger. Now, while this signature CUB is designed for Nanami and to help enable her kit specifically, it does still have an active skill that allows it to be flexible for almost any Omniframe if you don't have their signature CUB. With the active ability, the Jet Jaeger has the ability to group up enemies, which can really help for hitting multiple enemies at a time, pushing your scores in some of those competitive game modes like I was mentioning earlier. And while its passive skill, like I said, is specifically designed for Nanami, in this case the Firestar's Shadow Guard, it does have additional passive skills that are flexible for any unit, like Molten Fang, which just increases the carrier's attack by 100. So while CUBs generally speaking are designed for particular units, they're also still flexible to some degree. As I said before, there are a variety of pets to choose from, but if they are an S rank pet, pretty much any Gen 2 frame and even slightly earlier, they have a specific unit that they've been tailored for. So if you don't know which pet to focus on or to try and get first, you can always check out this handy dandy guide. On the Gray Raven website, they've got right here to show you the pet and what unit it goes along with. like I said before, like Jet Jaeger and Nanami Starfarer, or like in this patch with Bianca Stigmata, we've got the Manta Ray Fei Lin. Speaking of, how do you get pets? That's a great question. The gacha system is going to be your primary method for getting cubs in Punishing Gray Raven. There are a few opportunities for selectors, but they are all still gacha related and part of specific patches. They're pretty much ignorable at this point in time. We've already missed one in a previous patch. So just focus on the gacha, that's what it's going to be. As you can see here on research, it's 20 pulls. That's how you can guarantee getting an S rank pet. Unlike the base gacha for the Omni frames where you can target a specific A rank unit, you cannot do that with the Cub boosters. So the A ranks are always going to be random. You target specifically the S rank in this case. More so akin to like the event banner. When a pet debuts for the first time, kind of like the event banner, it will have a 100% rate up chance to pull the unit. After that, it is still going to be available to pull, but it is going to go down to an 80% rate. So here's a tip I've heard recently and something to keep in mind for you for future Gen 2 frames that are going to be coming over future patches. If you know you are going to be pulling on a signature weapon and the pet for a specific unit, but you don't have the black cards to guarantee both right away, you can, and you might want to look at focusing on the pet first. That's because when the pet debuts, there's a 100% rate up chance. So you're looking at just a guaranteed within 20 pulls, you are going to get the pet. Whereas on the weapon, even on its debut, it still only has an 80% chance. That never changes. So it's added, stays at 80, always. So you can focus on the pet first, guarantee the pet, and then continue to research into the weapon. Again, that's in a situation where you know you're going to be pulling on both the pet and the weapon for a specific unit. Again, just so you know, it might still like slow your character build progress like a little bit more, because in terms of like overall kit value, the weapon is more valuable than the pet. It's just cost effective to get the pet first, so it might still slow down your character build time, but long term, it's better economically speaking. One other way to either get a cub for the first time or to rank up a cub is actually through Norman War. In the Norman Revival plan, you can get this ore over here as you progress through the Norman Revival plan, and then with that you can go into the shop, and then in the ore shop you can exchange for these parts, these booster structural parts for the different cubs. As you can see, currently only the A ranks are available to get, but once you get an S rank cub, you can come in here and get additional shards for them. Now, something you may want to keep in mind is that it's something in the ballpark of like 6 million ore is what it takes to take an S rank cub to a double S cub from buying shards in the shop. So you may want to look at just saving the ore until you're ready to get an S rank that you're actively using and need from an S to a double S. And again, to reiterate, that's important because each rank is going to open a passive slot on the cub. So definitely something to keep in mind. Now, we're going to touch on what are some of the changes that came in this patch from how it previously operated. When raising a cub, it's kind of like raising an Omni frame. You come in, you select train, and then you can choose to level up the character, evolve it if you've got the shards for it, or you can level up the skills. Previously, skills were RNG. It had this terrible wheel system that it was a completely random upgrade as to where it was going to be applied. It made it very difficult from a resource perspective because you needed way more to guarantee all of the skill levels that you needed. Now, long term, you're probably going to want to level a lot of the skills anyway, just to get additional battle power. However, in the short term, if you're like me, and for example, on Yuan Yi, I've only got a couple skill slots available anyway. So it's better, I'm better off focusing on the passive skills that I'm going to use or the active skill that I'm going to use and to level up that with the resources available instead of it just being random and they might be wasted on something else entirely. It just allows you to be a little more economically efficient in this case, so you can actually select which skill you would like to level. So thank you very much, Kuro. Love that quality of life upgrade. It's just one more perk if you're someone like me who's been sleeping on the system. You can now be way more efficient with your resources. Free to play life, let's go! Woo! So that's kind of the general overview of the system as a whole. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to cover all of the pets specifically, but I'm sure some of you clicked this anyway because you want to know pet recommendations. And again, I just want to reiterate, focus on the pet for the unit that you want to use. So for example, one that I'm keeping in mind is Frost Oath for Rosetta because it enables her kit in a really big way. I've also been slowly pulling on Fei Lin with some of the free pulls from the event in this latest patch for Bianca Stigmata. I'm going to be going really hard on my physical team, so I'm kind of thinking about those cubs in particular right now, especially with the 100% rate up. So I would say generally speaking, get the cub for the units that you want to use, so focus on their signatures. And then also prioritize the cubs as their release because you get the 100% rate up. That's huge for saving you black cards for actually getting other units as they release. And we're entering into what some have called the golden age of Punishing Gray Raven because we're getting banger character after banger character for like 6 patches in a row. So get ready, everybody. It's going to be a big one. When it comes to the A rank units, I will say I find, generally speaking, the CC effects or the crowd control effects to be the most helpful, not necessarily looking at the damage that they're going to output, but that is helpful. So for example, on Yuan Yi, actually, his stun can be helpful, but just something to keep in mind is if they've got an enemy's got that yellow super armor, that you're not going to be able to stun that unit. So you need to break that first, and then you can stun them with Yuan Yi. Or looking at the area freeze from Seashell, or getting super armor yourself from Noctua so that you can continue your combos and not get interrupted. So things like that are what I look for when I'm thinking about these pets, not necessarily just the raw damage like from Lingya. But if you're a more experienced player than myself, you're a veteran who's watching this because you want to critique me and criticize me, well, thanks for watching. I appreciate the view. But let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on that. What are some of the A ranks that you think are more important? Or do you disagree with some of my cub takes in this case about what you should prioritize and how you should approach it? As I said, I would love to get your thoughts on that below. But that's gonna be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, make sure to drop a like and subscribe on the channel. I would greatly appreciate that. We are getting so close to 4K subs at the time of recording, so I would love that little bit of an extra push, guys. It would be very, very helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.